The Homeless Mother. Once there was a homeless mother named Emma. She had 2 young children, a daughter named Sophia, who was 6 years old, and a son named Diego, who was 4. They lived on the streets, their only shelter being a makeshift tent made out of tattered blankets and cardboard boxes. Emma's journey into homelessness began when she lost her job due to the pandemic. She was working as a waitress in a small restaurant, but when the lockdowns started, the restaurant had to close down and Emma was laid off. She struggled to find another job as many businesses were shutting down and the competition for the few available jobs was fierce. Emma had been living paycheck to paycheck, and without a steady income, she soon fell behind on her rent payments. Her landlord was unsympathetic and demanded she leaves the apartment. Emma tried to find other options, but with no friends or family to turn to for help and no savings to fall back on, she was forced onto the streets. Every day was a struggle to find food and clean water, and the constant fear of danger was always present. At first, Emma tried to survive by sleeping in parks or abandoned buildings, but it was dangerous and often led to her being harassed by strangers. She was forced to move around frequently, never staying in one place for too long. She struggled to find food and clean water, and her children suffered from malnutrition and sickness. Emma felt like she had hit rock bottom, and it was hard to see a way out of her situation. She felt isolated, hopeless, and ashamed of her circumstances. But despite everything, she never lost her love and devotion for her children, and she continued to do everything she could to keep them safe. Especially since it is not the first time she has gone through such difficult circumstances, as she struggled at first with her husband, Louis, who was a hard-working man who had always provided for his family. He had a steady job as a construction worker and had been the sole breadwinner for the family. Louis had always been a loving and devoted husband and father, but he struggled with addiction. At first, his addiction was manageable, but over time it escalated, and he began to lose control. He started missing work and eventually lost his job. Without a steady income, the family began to struggle, and Louis's addictions spiraled out of control. Emma tried to help her husband, but she couldn't do it alone. She begged him to get help, but Louis was too ashamed to admit he had a problem. He began to disappear for days on end, leaving Emma to care for their children on her own. The situation came to a head when Louis got into trouble with the law and was sent to jail. Emma was devastated, and she was forced to take care of her children on her own. After Louis's release from jail, he tried to make amends and get his life back on track. He went to rehab and got clean. He worked hard to stay sober and was determined to make things right with Emma and their children. He apologized for his past behavior and worked hard to make amends. Emma forgave him, and together they began to rebuild their lives. Despite his past mistakes, Louis remained committed to his family and tried to help Emma in any way he could. But it was too late to save his family from homelessness. Louis was racked with guilt and shame for the pain he had caused his family. Emma and Louis were on the street when Louis started feeling unwell. At first, he thought it was just a minor ailment, but his condition quickly worsened. Emma was desperate for help, but couldn't afford medical care. Louis's health continued to decline until he passed away in Emma's arms. Emma was devastated. She had lost her husband, and her children had lost their father. Louis's death left a huge hole in their lives, and they were left to grieve while still struggling to survive. The experience was a wake-up call for Emma, who realized just how fragile life can be. She was determined to honor her husband's memory by providing a better life for their children. Sophia and Diego were too young to fully comprehend the gravity of their situation, but they could feel their mother's pain and worry. Despite their circumstances, Emma made sure her children never went hungry and kept them as safe as possible. One day, while rummaging through a trash can for food, Emma met a kind, hearted woman named Sarah who was walking her dog. Sarah noticed the children's dirty clothes and empty stomachs and asked if she could help. Emma hesitated at first, unsure of Sarah's intentions, but her desperation for assistance eventually led her to accept the woman's offer. Sarah took Emma and her children to a shelter where they were provided with food, clothing, and a safe place to sleep. Emma was overwhelmed with gratitude and emotion as she saw her children's faces light up with happiness and hope. With the help of the shelter's staff, Emma was able to find a job and a small apartment for her family. Sophia and Diego were able to enroll in school, and Emma began to rebuild her life. However, the road to recovery was not easy. Emma had to work long hours to make ends meet and provide for her children. The stress of poverty and past trauma sometimes took a toll on her mental health, but she never gave up. Despite the hardships, Emma was determined to give her children a better life. She worked hard to give them a stable home, a good education, and most importantly, a loving mother who never gave up on them. Years later, Sophia and Diego were grown and successful, and they never forgot the sacrifices their mother made for them. They remained grateful for the kindness of Sarah and the shelter staff who helped their family in their time of need. Emma's story is a stark reminder that homelessness can happen to anyone, and it often starts with a single event, like a job loss or eviction. It shows the importance of having a safety net, like supportive family and friends, or access to social programs to prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. It's also a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. With the help of others and determination, anyone can overcome adversity and find a brighter future.